go over everything the first day because, you know, if you ask me about homework, so I have students who ask me after the homework and test, Dr. Arpin, which were my incorrect answers, why you write that my homework is incomplete, what was that problem? So even though I answered to this question, I supposed to answer to this question before you do the test. So that's why it's very important that you start going over the homework and the exercises before the test, because there is limited time, and it's my duty to help you before you are done with this module, because at the end when you ask, I'm busy with checking 20-25 tests and homeworks and exercises, and that's why we need to go over them before, not after. So this is exercise number 2. What is needed to do? The common region for venipuncture, and after these lectures you will of course know what is antiseptics, with which antiseptic we are cleaning the site before we do injections or venipuncture. Yes, these are questions that the person needs to know after this module. That's why it is must, and I didn't made it 7 or 8 questions. You need to know the answer to all of this. That's why please go over all of them, and if there are any questions, if you feel that I didn't cover or the answer to the question is not in the PowerPoint presentation, is not in the book, ask me so we could go over it and you can become competent, and it's convenient for you to do it. The same is with exercise number 1. The blood consists of, we need to know what is inside the blood, yes? For example, which cells become lower in bleeding? 3 functions of blood. So these are very important things that you need to know before you are done with the module venipuncture and hematology. The test is easy because there are only 15 questions, and you know, yes, that your Zoom participation is very important in your grade. So when we are doing distance learning, the test is the least important thing because you get the test the first day. That's why it cannot be as objective as your participation in the Zoom. So you are required to do the exercises and the homework. Let's go over the homework to see what difficulties you might face here. Oops, it's not the relevant homework. Let me go to hematology because of the request to do the test, I went to the previous module folder. Okay, do you see the homework in front of you?
Yes.
So anti-cubital space, anticoagulant, antiseptics. So these are so here is spelling mistake. So please correct this before, if you are going to take a picture and send it to me. So for example, this one, if you don't know, I will not take out a point from you because medical assistant, if doesn't know what is erythropoietin, it's okay. It's not a big deal. But if you don't know how to clean the site, with what to clean the site, what is anti-cubital space, it's not good. Yes, practical things are very important for you. Hemolysis, hemoglobin, do you see every time it starts with hem, with blood? And you know, need to know the meaning. I don't know why palpate is here, because you palpate in order to find the vein. That's why you need to know the definition of palpating. Traps container, syncope, and thrombocyte. And what is CBC and what it is used for? So with a couple of words, you need to write down what is CBC, why we do this, and what we can get after doing this. This is complete blood count, the blood test. Yes, the most common blood test that is done when people go to the lab or to the doctor. Is the requirement with assignments clear, or you need more explanation? Is everything clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. In this case, let's start our lecture, and we start from 42. Even though we have to do 41 as well, we start from 42 because at first we need to know what is blood, what it is for, why we need it, what it does, and then we will discuss how to draw it. So hematology, we already know that it studies the blood. Do you see the lecture PowerPoint presentation in front of you?
Yes.
Okay, good. So the study of blood, which related diseases and disorders. So it is also a tissue. Yes, it sounds weird, but the blood also is a tissue, and it consists of two things. First of all, let me show you the picture, and then I will go to the page number 2. So this is our blood and what it consists of. Do you see? If we draw a blood and leave it for 30 minutes, for 40 minutes, for a couple of hours, we will see that it becomes of two colors, like. Sometimes yogurt, yes, or some juices. If it stays a lot, you can see that the bottom part becomes thick and the upper part, the top becomes, how to say, dilate, like with diluent. Yes, it's more transparent. So it consists of plasma, the liquid part of the blood, which is 55%, and the cells, which are 45%, they are red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. So here we have the abbreviation of them. Yes, red, white, and platelets. And all of them, all these three, have their second names, and you are required to know their two names in order not to get confused. So the function of the blood, our blood is about 4 or 5 liters in our body, and it has three functions. Transportation, it carries oxygen to all body tissues and cells. It means even if you breathe oxygen in, even if your heart pumps the blood, yes, to all body systems, if there is no blood, you will die, yes, because the blood is the tissue that sends the oxygen to all body cells. Transportation, which is done through red blood cells. So we have three type of cells, yes, and that's why your blood has three functions. One is transportation through red blood cells. The other one is protection, fights against infections through white blood cells or leukocytes. So first, transportation of oxygen and carbon dioxide is through red blood cells or erythrocytes, protection through white blood cells or leukocytes, and coagulation through thrombocytes or platelets. So these are their two names. I see that Narine raised hand. Narine, do you have any question?
No, I don't have.
Okay. Did you receive my email with the invitation?
Mm,
In the morning, I sent the email for Zoom. Did you get it?
yes.
Okay. So the blood has three types of cells and consequently it has three functions. Let's take a look how they look like. So do you see this is the blood? It consists of plasma and cells. Plasma, what has plasma inside? This liquid, it's transparent pinkish liquid, yellowish, sometimes pinkish. What it is made of? Do you see? We have here water,
Mhm.
electrolytes or ions, proteins, nutrients, wastes, and gases. So this is our plasma. And in the plasma, we have cells, yes? We have red blood cells. Do you remember what function do they do? What is their function?
Carry oxygen.
Correct. They carry oxygen to all body tissues and all cells. Then we have white blood cells. Do you see? We have lots of types of them. Basophils, neutrophils. lymphocytes, yes, but their name is white blood cells or leukocyte, and under this name we have lots of white blood cells, yes. And what is their function? They fight
Infection.
against, correct, they fight against bacteria and viruses. It means they are the warriors, the soldiers of your body. And the third type, platelets, or what do you remember? What is the other name of platelets?
Thrombocytes.
Thrombocytes. And what is their function?
To make blood to clot.
Correct. They stop bleeding. Yes. If you don't have thrombocytes, you can bleed until you don't have any blood, because thrombocytes are the cells that stop. They make a membrane, they clot, and they made like a band-aid, so you don't bleed, but it made from inside of the vessel. So let's start from the first, red blood cells or erythrocytes. And we know that they carry oxygen and carbon dioxide. They are round, disc-like cells with big concave sides. It means like donuts. And do you see that they live 120 days? It means everything in the nature, it is born, that it becomes older and then dies, yes, and all our cells also, and it is called apoptosis. It means programmed death. If no apoptosis, people can have cancers. So how it happens? They live 120 days, and if the erythrocyte is 119 days old, it is very old erythrocyte, then it dies, and then a new one is created in our bone marrow. A red coloration, why they are red, our erythrocytes, how it happened that our blood is red? Because in erythrocyte we have hemoglobin, yes, which is made of protein and iron. And this is why if person has iron deficiency anemia, they have low hemoglobin, and that's why we need iron in order to have normal hemoglobin and normal oxygen carrying cells. So this is the normal limits of hemoglobin for men and for women, but please remember that every time labs can have other normal limits, and every time when you or your patients do the lab work, you can see different normal limits, but usually it is from 13 to 18, and for women from 12 to 16 gram deciliter. Hematocrit, the percentage of red blood cells in whole blood, and measuring hematocrit detect types of anemia. It means how many erythrocytes are, for example, in 2 milliliters of the blood, yes, and this also has its normal limits. Do you see how many erythrocytes do you have in your body?
Mm-hmm.
About 5 million, yes, that's why when you take a look to this picture, do you see the part that has cells is red? Why? Because even though we have 3 types of cells, erythrocytes are millions. That's why we see the part with cells red, because erythrocytes are the majority of these cells. There are about 5 million, yes, for men these levels, and for women these levels. And if we have less erythrocytes, it means we have anemia. Do you remember A?
Absence.
Absence, yes. And hemo or emia, blood, absence of blood. It's how to say, it's not the correct meaning, but it's similar. So if there is not enough iron, not enough hemoglobin, not enough oxygen, that's why people sometimes are prescribed iron supplements, and they are also prescribed vitamin C, because vitamin C helps the iron to be absorbed, to be digested. And if your patient is taking iron supplements, please make sure to explain the patient that, dear patient, when you are taking iron supplements, it's better to eat kiwi. It's better to eat, to have vitamin C, but don't eat dairy after taking your iron supplement, because it will not let your iron to be absorbed. So the second one are leukocytes or white blood cells, and they protect our body. They are our soldiers. Do you see how many we have? If we have about 5 million erythrocytes, we have about 6 or 7,000 leukocytes. Do you see the difference? Millions of erythrocytes and thousands of leukocytes. And when the patient has HIV or AIDS, it means the patient has very low quantity of white blood cells, of leukocytes. It means the virus eats the leukocytes, it ruptures the leukocytes, destroys them. That's why usually people with HIV/AIDS, they die not from the AIDS itself, but from secondary infections, because they don't have leukocytes to be protected of infections. Let me go to the third type of cells, not to confuse you, because the sequence of pages is not the one that I like. So, and the third type of the cells are platelets or thrombocytes. They form plaques to make clots, and they control bleeding. And do you see how many we have? About 300,000. So please remember that we have several million of erythrocyte, several thousand of leukocyte or white blood cells, and several 100,000 of thrombocytes or platelets. If we have more of any of these cells, it doesn't matter, it is red blood cells or white blood cells or thrombocytes, we have, do you see oocysts? If we have less, it will be penia. So if in your patient chart you see thrombocytosis, what do you think? Is it more than normal or less than normal?
More.
More than normal. If you see erythrocytosis, it means which cells are more than normal?
Red blood cells.
Red blood cells. If you see lymphopenia, what does it mean? Or leukopenia?
It means
White blood cells?
white,
Yeah,
yes.
it's a
White.
kind of white blood cells.
White blood cells, but are
Cells,
they
yes.
low or they are more?
Penia low.
Low.
So it means we have, your patient has less than normal blood, white blood cells, yes, usually which we meet during HIV and AIDS. So the prothrombin time and thromboplastin time, we call it coagulation markers. And if you receive, if you are doing phlebotomy in the medical assistant office, and if you receive order to do coagulation tests or coagulation markers, it means you take the light blue evacuation tube and you check for PT or PTT. It means how long it takes to stop the bleeding in the patient. There are many patients who are taking anticoagulants such as aspirin, warfarin, coumadin, and we need to know how long is the bleeding time. If it is less than normal, it means the dosage of the medication is low and the patient can have thromb formation and consequences. If it is more than normal, it means the patient can have bleeding and doctor needs to lower the dose of medication. That's why usually we can see these orders, PTT or PT. Let me go back to the types. So how many types of cells we have?
3.
3, and consequently we have 3 functions of the blood, yes? What do our red blood cells do?
Carry oxygen and oxide.
Carry oxygen. What is the other name of red blood cells?
Erythrocytes.
Correct. What do white blood cells do?
Fight
They fight against infections and viruses.
Correct. What is the other name for white blood cells?
Leukocytes.
Leukocytes, correct. What do platelets do?
Form blood.
Pink blood, making clots.
Correct. And what is the other name for platelets?
Thrombocytes.
Thrombocytes. If we have thrombocytopenia, it means what is less? Low thrombocytes. It means what risk our patient have? Risk to bleed or risk to clot? Bleeding risk is high, correct. Okay, so if we talk about white blood cells or leukocytes, we know that there are several thousand, yes? Approximately how many erythrocytes do we have?
Oh my God.
Several
Millions.
And how many approximately platelets do we have?
Several thousand.
Several hundred thousand, yes, correct. So leukocytes have lots of types. Do you see neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils? Why we have different? Because we have to fight against different things, yes? We need to fight against bacteria, against virus, against parasite, against fungus. That's why we have different. For example, neutrophils, they kill the bacteria. Do you see? You don't have to remember all these things, just for you to know and to recognize if we have in the test. Eosinophils, they become more in our blood test if we have allergy or any parasitic infection. So if you take your lab test and you see that your eosinophils are higher, it means you have sensitivities to anything. Yes, that's why they are high. And the basophils fight against parasites and against allergy. Monocytes are the largest blood cells and they swallow and kill larger bacteria, and this process is called phagocytosis. It means they walk in your blood and if they see a big bacteria, they just take it inside. They eat like big fish, eat small fish, yes, and this is the same like phagocytosis. And lymphocytes have major role in immune system, T lymphocyte T cells fights against HIV, and this is the one that is destroyed when we have HIV. And the lymphocytes, B cells, they release antibodies against antigen called immunoglobulin. It means if the patient is having chickenpox, rubella, mumps, rubiola, yes, these are the diseases after which you have lifelong antibody and you will never get this disease second time. And there are other diseases that release antibodies for several years for a period of time and you will not get this disease for second time for this period of time. For example, hepatitis B. You are vaccinated, you release some antibodies, and if you have a contact with person who has hepatitis B, you will not get this because your body already have antibodies against it, and you will not get this disease. They will bind the virus and you will be protected for some period of time. That's why we do 3 shots for hepatitis B. Only 1 is not enough, only 2 are not enough. We need to have 3. And we need to repeat it every 10 years in order to have the same level of antibodies, the exact level that can protect us from getting hepatitis B. Hemostasis. Stasis means stop or standing. Yes, that's why this is stopping. It means to stop the bleeding after the injury. Hemostasis, control bleeding. Hemoglobin, you already know, yes? When is it located, the hemoglobin, in which cell?
Red blood cells.
Correct, in red blood cell. So hematopoiesis, it means creation, production of cells. So this takes place in the bone marrow, which is the inner part of our long bones. So the production of your blood cells takes place in bone marrow? So erythropoietin, you have this question in your homework. So this is produced by kidney. Your kidneys relieve erythropoietin. When they relieve, when you have low red blood cells, when you have low hemoglobin and low oxygen levels, what happens? Kidneys send a command to the bone marrow and tell, hey, please produce more red blood cells because there is low oxygen. We need more in order to have enough oxygen to be transported to the blood cells. Do you see how your organism helps to overcome the challenges and problems in the body? Sometimes we think that kidney doesn't have anything common with blood, yes, but they can send a command to the bone marrow, to the bones, and telling, hey, produce more red blood cells. And this is done through erythropoietin. Adhesion. So this term we can make similar with Band-Aid. Yes, adhesion occurs when platelets stick together across the injured surface. That's why sometimes we tell that the platelets, when they stick together, they make a biological Band-Aid to stop the bleeding. Thrombosis, blood clotting inside the blood vessels. What do you think? When the blood will clot, when we have thrombocytosis or thrombocytopenia?
Thrombocytosis.
Thrombocytosis. If we
Thrombocytosis.
have, correct, if we have thrombocytes more than normal, there is a risk of blood clotting. Yes, a clot formation can take place inside the blood vessel, and then it can travel and clog artery in the brain, and the patient can have stroke. It can travel and clog artery in the heart vessel, and the patient can have myocardial infarction. That's why if we see that thrombocytes are more than normal, we give the patient aspirin so they become less and there is no risk of having thrombosis inside the vessel to prevent the stroke and to prevent the myocardial infarction. Erythrocyte sedimentation rate measures the rate in millimeters per hour at which blood cells settle out in a tube. So in normal words, it means how long it takes in the tube erythrocyte to go and sit down, let's say, in the blood tube. Let me show again the picture. So it means in this picture, if you put here the blood, it means how long it takes to come here for erythrocytes. If they come here fast, it means it is high. If they come after some period of time, it means it is low. Where are we? Excuse me, is there any question? I don't hear you.
Yes, this is Mary.
Uh-huh. Mary, can you speak a little, let me see. Can you speak a little louder voice? Hello? Mary? Mary?
Yeah, I'm here.
Uh-huh. So now I can hear you. What is the question?
Question is, have any time, like 2 hours or day, for blood?
Sedimentation rate?
Yes.
No, it takes less than several days. So I can give you an assignment. So write in the chat tomorrow or send me an email what is the normal erythrocyte sedimentation rate. And we will talk about it more if you are interested. Okay?
Okay, thank
And
you.
as we talk hematocrit, the percentage of red blood cells in whole blood, so please don't confuse their abbreviation. Hematocrit is HCT, hemoglobin is HGB, and usually you see only abbreviation in the lab tests. In the key terms, we have a definition of a disease, sickle cell anemia, when this is inherited disease. It means it goes from parent to the kids. So the red blood cells have sickle shape. Do you see here? This is the shape of the erythrocyte during this disease, and they die early, leaving a shortage of healthy red blood cells. I mean the cells, and they can the blood flow, causing the pain, sickle cell crisis. It means erythrocytes live less than usual, and because they have this structure, they can clog the blood vessel, which is very painful. And during this crisis, during this attack, we have to give patient painkillers so they can better tolerate this attack until it goes away. We have less than 1 minute. Please remember that we have several checkpoint questions. Be ready to answer them in the chat tomorrow. And here we have extra pages. Last 2 pages are extra for those students who want to know more. So please go over all assignments so you could ask me the question before we do the test, okay? Take care. I'm going to school now to put your grades in the system. See you tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Please prepare your questions.
See you. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
See you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.